What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 325 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR. I have my co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
Hey, man.
Hey.
It's been so long. Like a week, almost.
Pretty much.
Joining us this week over the Skype machines, over the amazing capabilities that the internet can provide, is artist Livio Ramondelli. Waiting patiently.
Hello.
Livio, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Great to talk to you guys.
This is kind of usually sometimes when we connect with artists and creators and things like that, it'll be after bumping into them at a show, or I know you through this other person, things of that nature. We literally met you about 3 minutes ago, and this is one of those. Alex is really good at following the things on the internet, mainly through like the Instagram. If you follow our Instagram, that's 99% Alex, and he has this eye for following very talented people that I tend to stick with. Like, I follow these 5 people, and that's who I follow. And Alex has been. I'm going to let you take it away here, Alex. How did you come upon Livio and his work?
Oh, honestly, I'm not sure.
Why don't you remember following this person?
It was one of those things of if I follow enough artists and I see enough sketches, then and if I hashtag enough terms with other people we meet or when we do episodes, then
Right.
the explore option and search option will show me more cool stuff. And at some point, I'm sure I saw a Transformer somewhere and said, "Yo, that's dope. I'm gonna follow this guy." and then go ahead.
No, I appreciate that very much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And then post after post, and all this cool stuff keeps coming out, and I start paying more attention to who this is, and and then it might branch off from Instagram and also spread to Facebook, and then I'll see you post on Sketch Prices, who
Yeah.
we're very familiar with Sketch Prices.
We're big fans of Sketch Prices.
It's an amazing site. I think I just joined like maybe 2 months ago, but it's
Yeah.
such a great community of people. Like, I've really, really enjoyed it. Yeah.
We're no strangers because we've had on the founder
The creator,
Oh.
if you want to say.
at least four times now.
Oh, wow.
He's become, and it was just because of hey, we found this thing on the internet, and like back when this great gentleman named Charlie, he had his own. It was just like an independent website that he put together called Sketch Prices, and he put to hey, here are the prices of this person. We've talked to him a bunch of different times. He's become a good friend of ours, and now he has the Facebook group, which is like exploding, and people like yourself are joining the group as well, and it's unbelievable to see like how much it has changed in very good ways.
When he started, I don't think he ever thought that artists would come on to post their own prices
Right.
and say how to contact me, but here we are.
No, it's been amazing. Like, one of my friends recommended me to join the group, and I had done commissions for people in that group, sort of like separate just from conventions and stuff. And then it's really crazy to see like all the names you recognize, like how connected that group really is to the convention scene.
Yeah,
right.
And it's definitely growing. I just saw today that Scott Williams, who's inked Jim Lee for a long time, he just signed on.
Yeah.
So it's like that's a great get. Yeah.
And then he posts 2 of his own pictures. He's like, "Well, I'm supposed to post prices for something," and he shows off like an $800 Batman, and it's well,
I mean, it's Scott Williams.
oh yeah.
He's all right.
I'm not saying that's a bad. I'm
Right.
just saying he read the pinned post and is like abiding by it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, I want let's start right off with technique,
Okay.
because you're an artist. I'm looking at your great stuff, and one of the things that like confuses me sometimes is
Is art.
is art in general. In the past, we've talked with other artists about what they make and how they make it and whatnot. We talked to Brent Peoples a while ago. He drew me a Lex Luthor in power armor at Connecticut last year.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "Oh, that's easy. The shoulders are basically just boxes." and then went on from there. And
Yeah.
we've also follow a dark humor artist named Doug Paskovich, who does Arsenic Lullaby, and he occasionally will show tutorials either over YouTube or on his own webpage and whatnot. And as I'm looking at some of your stuff,
Uh-huh.
you draw giant robots. So
I do.
Sometimes.
occasionally they're from a lower perspective, which means you have to make them look huge while
Yeah.
drawing, I don't know, 30 cubes essentially, but they all have to be
in proportion.
in correct proportion, you know, making them look smaller towards it so they look gigantic. And I wouldn't know where to start with that.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, especially Transformers, because if you think about how much sort of posability those characters should actually have in the real world, it's basically like if you pick up a Transformers toy and try and make Optimus Prime cross his arms, he can't do that.
Right.
You know, so when you're drawing them, there is always a level. Like I've talked to all the other Transformers artists about this. There's always some level of like cheating or being flexible because you just sort of have to, you know. Like if you want them to move and have a lot of emotion, like they just have to sort of break the rules a little bit, you know? And then also like, I mean, I'm a huge fan of comics like Akira where they nail like the perspective, like every shot is flawless, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes I think with Transformers, they can get a lot more life if you sort of bend things a little bit, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's still definitely tricky because, you know, in a lot of cases they are cars and there's only so much cheating you can do with an actual car, you know? But yeah, so like in terms of the technique, it's kind of like laying out an initial sort of pose, and then the pose always sort of stiffens up once you start layering on, like you said, like 30 cubes. You know, that just kind of happens. But you're always sort of like wrestling with two things, you know. So yeah.
What kind of by this point do you just know like by heart like what everyone's shape is and what everyone is constructed as? I mean, it's not like drawing, you know, Batman's costume over again, or, you know, different X-Men's costumes. You eventually just get a hang of it. So like how do you, you know, are able to differentiate from Starscream's shape to Optimus Prime's shape?
I have all the main guys memorized. So like Optimus and Soundwave and Megatron, Starscream, those guys are pretty memorized. But even within them, I mean, it is kind of like drawing Batman in the sense of like, as long as you get the big staples and the things people really know correctly, you can change things here and there. Like if you're drawing like Batman's like utility belt, right? Mm-hmm. You can make it as many pouches as you want on there, or make it a more sleek belt. Same with like his logo on his chest, you know. There's a lot of like leeway, or even in like his suit, you know, is there like different lining and texture to it. And Transformers is kind of similar. Like as long as you get the big stuff people know about Optimus Prime right, then you can go in and kind of change things here and there and keep it different, you know.
Have any like fans who are real purists like want like a specific generation or?
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. Yeah, like that is. I mean, usually anytime you get a commission these days, even if it's like a non-Transformers thing, like you know someone wants like an X-Men character, I tend to think of the X-Men as like the Jim Lee '90s era, even though that's because I'm old now, so like young people don't really know that or think of it that way. Mm-hmm. So if someone wants a commission of like Rogue, I always ask like, you know, what costume do you want? Because there's so many. And same with like Transformers, like there's so many different versions of Optimus Prime, you know? So
I imagine that you probably especially from the purists, the people who really are, you know, down with it, they're probably clamoring for like Peterbilt Optimus Prime from the movies, right? Not the flat nose. Who, you know, no one really, the cartoon, it's old. Yeah. I'm making a really bad joke in case.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna, I was gonna say, yeah. No, I don't know if I've honestly ever been asked to do I mean, I should take it back. A couple times asked to do one of the ones from the live action movies. But yeah, it's like 99% people want G1. Yeah.
I mean, you can't like Transformers the movie, like the from '86 or whenever that was, the same year I was born.
Yeah.
That just raised on that movie. Like scrolling through your website, you know, I saw that you had a Rodimus Prime, which brought me way back. You don't see Hot Rod too often, at least in my experience. Yeah. And I feel like he was voiced by Judd Nelson, and he was the star of the movie. And like, how can you? But anyways,
he's in terms of the comics, like the IDW comics that I work on. Hot Rod is definitely popular, but he is more popular from what I've seen with kind of like British audiences, because I think it was like Transformers Generation 2, the comic. Apparently, it's something like that. I could be messing up this continuity. That continued on in England in a way that I don't think we got it in the US as much. So they had time to love Hot Rod more than we did. We sort of knew him as the guy that like got Optimus Prime killed, and then he was he was the leader for like one season of the show after that. But I think there's more of an affection for him overseas, along with like Ultra Magnus too. I think he seems more popular to me, like from my friends in England, than he is here.
Probably one of the most traumatic experiences of my childhood is watching Optimus Prime turn black, like after just brutal. Absolutely
I
brutal.
still, yeah, I still find that hard to watch. Yeah.
And then Ultra Magnus says, "Damn it! I couldn't believe it." And he was trying to open up the Matrix, and he says,
Yeah.
"Open, damn
Yeah.
it!" Robert
Yeah.
Stack, you're cursing, man.
Yeah. I was always annoyed too that they were able to rebuild Ultra Magnus despite the fact that he was completely blown apart, but they couldn't Optimus in that movie.
Yeah. Whereas Optimus gets stabbed in the gut. Oh no, he's dead.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I always have the generic question, but it's the one that interests me, tends to interest me the most. You know, I love hearing like how you got it. Like, are you, I'm on your website. It looks like you studied this a lot, having a master's degree from the Academy of Art University. Like, what's your story with art? You know, was this since you were a kid? You know, what's the deal?
Yeah, definitely since I was a kid, like I was always kind of drawn indoors and stuff, and parents wanted me to go outside, and I was like, but it's way cooler to do this. And yeah, and then like it's a constant journey. I mean, even going through school, like I was able to go to the Academy of Art, like you said, and that was a great experience. But you're still sort of learning for the rest of your life, right? Like even if you get a master's, you don't come out of it and know everything, So and your style sort of shifts on its own too. There's some things you can control, and then there's just some things that change without, you intentionally doing it. So yeah, but just definitely drawing my entire life and drawing every day. I probably draw more now than I did when I was a kid, which is really funny. Just luckily enough, it's paid work now, but
right.
Yeah.
As you're saying, like, having to evolve on and learn new things, I do see a fair amount of both like pencil work, but also digital art. Do you prefer one over the other, or does it depend on the job you have, or?
It depends. I mean, usually even like my digital paintings, they all start off just pencil on paper, scanned in, and then I use a Cintiq to digitally color them. But I do think my drawings turn out better when they're drawn on paper. Like I really don't like doing anything completely digital from the start, And I still just really like pencil and paper, just shading. Like I go to a bunch of like figure drawing events in Los Angeles here, and it's just really fun to just have it like the purity of just a pencil and paper,
Do you ever see like a shit? Because you see, I mean, I have been seeing it a little more, as far as like not purely, but mostly digital artists like Russell Dauterman, I believe is his name. He's on Thor. He was on Thor.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
I believe he's pretty much all digital. Fiona Staples on Saga, she's pretty much all digital. Do you see this trend moving in? Like, is it? Because I imagine it's faster. And like if you make a mistake, you can just press the back button and it's gone.
I mean, I think these days you have to know how to do it. Like even if you want to do some traditional stuff, like you still have to know Photoshop these days, But so yeah, I know a lot of artists that do just straight digital, and the stuff's amazing. I do think one thing in terms of like the economics of comics is that if you're drawing all digital, you don't have any originals to sell. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of people, like, because, the sketch group's a great example. There's a lot of art collectors out there that want to own published pages. So it benefits you to have something on paper,
Yeah.
We're a couple of collectors.
So. Yeah. Alex has a more impressive, I mean, the ones that I have, I cherish all 3 pages of original art that I own. But it can be a little bit of a bummer to like, I believe it was Russell Dauterman, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, because I loved the new Thor book, the latest Thor book, I guess. And I was like, oh my, I wonder how much his art would be. And I've talked about this on the show before too. And I was like, oh, he's digital. And like, you can buy like high res prints of the pages and like they cost a good amount, but it's like the closest thing you're going to get to an original art page from that book.
But it might not be the only one.
Yeah, and like, it's just there's something that knowing that this is the page that the artist was holding, and they these are the inks and these are the pencils that came out of their hand, for lack of a better term. It's just the collector just really kind of grasps that.
I have a buddy of mine who collects a lot of original art, and he actually likes seeing the mistakes. Like he intentionally likes seeing like white out, and he even likes like coffee stains. I think like IDW publishes those like artist edition books, and they're stunning because they'll literally like photocopy the tape and the tears and stuff into it. Like it's incredible, and I think people really do love seeing that. I remember like when I was learning how to like paint and stuff, I'd study a lot of Alex Ross stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked when you could see some of his pencil still in there, even though it was a finished painting. Like if you looked closely,
Right.
like I always loved seeing that. It was really cool to see that, just the process on display, you know?
Even like you said with those collected editions, like there might be notes in the margins somewhere,
Right.
or where
Oh,
they're testing their ink and whatnot. And
Yeah.
Being a fan yourself, do you collect at all, or is it mostly like just producing your own work?
I collect some. Like there's a couple guys. Like I have like an original from Bruce Timm, and you know, a couple. Yeah, because like but you guys know it's a really expensive hobby.
Yeah.
Yes,
if
it
you really,
is.
you know, anyone you've heard of, if you want to start collecting a lot of their stuff, it's going to be pricey, you know. But the benefit is that like it's an investment, like really, because if you buy a really expensive page like Alex Ross, you know, you can flip that, you know, if you had to. So it is like, you know, you're spending a lot of money, but you're getting some value for it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my weakness is probably more along the lines of like high-end collectibles, like Hot Toys. You guys know that company?
Yep.
Yes.
Like I collect
Yes.
a lot of those. Yeah, that's another expensive vice. Like cocaine would be cheaper, but but it is a good hobby.
I've got two. They're probably like the least popular ones.
Who do you have?
I've got an Agent Coulson,
Ah,
and I've got the Mandarin from Iron Man 3.
oh, nice. Yeah, the likenesses are amazing, aren't they?
Oh yeah,
Like,
it's years ago when I first discovered them, it was on a website called Topless Robot. Not what you think. It was like a fan geek website. Lots of Transformers there, and he posted a series of pictures that were of the Heath Ledger Joker. And
Oh, yeah.
all of us were convinced it was from the set somewhere, but we
Right,
didn't
right.
recognize
This
what
is a
part
picture.
of the set.
We're looking at pictures of Heath
This
Ledger.
is actually Heath Ledger. You're right. And then it was
Yeah.
real like, no, this is a toy. This is all the toy. And
Yeah.
the joke was that like the sculptors had like sold their soul to the devil and to get their skill.
it wouldn't surprise me, man. I remember like literally that was the one I first saw too. I mean, I remember seeing photos of that Heath Ledger, and I was like, this is amazing. Like you just undeniably amazing to look at, you know?
And the next one was a Bruce Lee one, and still like uncanny.
Oh yeah, the first one I bought was an Iron Man Mark III, and it was like he has like interchangeable battle damage pieces, and I
Yeah.
was just like, I knew I was hooked because that thing was just incredible.
Did you get the suit gantry?
I did not. I was tempted though. Yeah.
If I got any Iron Mans, I would want like the entire construct that takes it off them too, or puts it
Oh,
on. Either
You
or.
also would like to pay your mortgage.
Yeah.
I did go to the most amazing comic book store I've ever seen. I went to a comic book convention in Dubai. And Dubai has a comic store called Comic Cave, and you can see photos of this store online. It's incredible. They have a life-size Iron Man gantry inside there, and I stood. So and then it's surrounded by full-size Iron Man armors, like against the wall, like all the different marks. And you can buy the armors. and I remember asking them, I was like, how many of these do you sell? Because they're really, really expensive. And they're like, oh, we sell them all the time because it's Dubai. Everyone's like,
Yeah, everyone's loaded there.
yeah. It's an incredible store though.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's borderline unfair, but then again, you know, it's probably for the best
Yeah.
for my wallet. But
Yeah.
So from the point where you graduated school, you're out of the art academy. At what point, like, did you know you wanted to draw comics, or you wanted to draw Transformers, and like, was it a stroke of luck where it's like, oh sweet, IDW, this is the perfect match?
Yeah, I had so I always was interested in comics. Like kind of ironically, I sort of thought, well, you know, I didn't want to be freelance in the sense of I didn't know if you'd be worrying about money. You know, I kind of was like, I should probably hunt down a job that would give me like a steady paycheck, right?
Yeah.
But I still wanted to do art. So when I was in school, I was studying like concept art, and I thought like, oh, I'll get hired as like an in-house concept artist, like a gaming company or movie company. And that'll be my job, right? And then maybe do like comics on the side. But super randomly, like Wildstorm, Jim Lee's old company, had an art blog that I would check for fun. And as I was finishing school, they had a job posting. They were looking for concept artists. So I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot. So I just emailed them out of the blue, and I got hired. So that was incredible, incredibly lucky, because my first boss was Jim Lee, who was like one of my heroes. He was like one of my heroes growing up, and that was an amazing experience. Like I was there for 5 years, like in house. and when I was there, I started doing comic conventions and just setting up in like Artist Alley and stuff. And my second amazing bit of luck was I just had random prints out, like some Transformers stuff. And Chris Ryle, who was an editor at IDW at the time, he walked by and was like, "Oh, I like your Transformers. You should submit to us." And then that led to now 8 years of Transformers work. So yeah, I had two incredibly lucky things happen in my life for sure.
I'm sorry, because I'm sure like there's tons of people who like are angry at you for having such good luck.
It was funny because I didn't really like, people ask now, like, how did you get your start? And I'm like, man, it was two really, really lucky things. Like, when it's happening to you, you just don't know where it's going to go, right?
Yeah.
You need the kind of hindsight of looking back and be like, man, that was incredible that happened. So now it's yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like it's luck, but also combined with with your talent.
You have to have
like,
something to be lucky about.
The guy, they wouldn't have said, "Oh, you should submit to us," unless your work was good. So like,
Yeah.
I guess that must be like the perfect combination that everyone seeks out. It's like a little bit of luck, a little bit of energon, and a lot of luck. Yep.
Yeah.
I just quoted it. I brought it way back. Transformers.
That was good. Yeah.
Nice one.
Yep. That.
Yeah.
Right
No, it is true. It is true. Yeah.
You spoke that you were thinking about doing possibly going into concept art. On your website there are some examples of your concept art. We actually had the chance a couple months ago. We spoke with Corey Hubble. I already forgot how it's
Hubble.
pronounced. Hubble. Yes, he was a big concept artist on a lot of the Halo games.
Cool.
And things of that nature. Is concept art something that you would ever pursue, like in the future, or are you more of a I want to do comics pages, things of that nature?
I mean, I think these days, I think back in the day, you had to sort of pick a focus a little bit more than you do today. Like, I think in a lot of jobs now, like it's sort of good to be versatile. So, and then I'm also interested in both things. Like I just still do some concept art. Like I just designed a set for this like independent movie recently. So I'm just really trying to take on things that I'm interested in. Like I love comics and I love, the immediacy of comics. Like the thing I like about comic art is that if you put in like an extra hour, just like, noodling away on some trees or something, all that stuff gets printed and that all makes it into the page,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like concept art, if you spend a couple extra hours on like a rock, that the concept art's it's not really the final product. The final product is for the movie,
Right.
Whereas comics, all the love you put into it, you sort of see it, So, but I'm hoping to kind of continue to do both.
Seems like it's a little more kind of fulfilling to do like comic art, whereas
I think
like
so. Yeah.
concept, it's
Yeah.
like you're giving someone an idea of what this thing might look like, and they might build a set out of it or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've definitely worked on some things where I got to see something I designed like built. I worked on this Transformers thing they built in Shanghai, and it's like it's sort of like a walkthrough experience. But I get to design, these random doors and corridors, and just seeing all that stuff built life size was really cool. But there's always a lot of like cooks in the kitchen on any kind of concept art job too. It's a lot of other people's taste, and especially the people that are paying for the project. They obviously have a lot of opinions. So. Comics are a little more, you have like some freedom on the art on more so.
One of the things I've asked in the past in that manner is like, at what point is it frustrating, or is it just like, well, this is a job where they say, okay, can you do this again, but like have this be bigger, do this again, but like with more sunshine, or do this, what, we're not quite there yet, but do it again.
Yeah. It depends on what it is, like you were talking about digital versus traditional earlier. Like that's one thing where digital really comes in handy. If someone's like, in a finished painting, if someone's like, yeah, can you make this tree bigger? Like that's a 2-second change digitally. But if it's a traditional painting, you're screwed. So, but hopefully you're working with people that kind of understand the process. Like the worst people, and I haven't really dealt with them too often, but people that, you send these things in stages. Like you send like a layout to approve, and then line art, and then finished colors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the worst people to deal with are the ones that approve like a layout, line art, and then when they get to the coloring stage, then they want a different angle and everything. And it was like, it's like, that's what you tell me in the first stage, So you're sort of dealing with people that don't understand the process,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We have there's a guy that's more local this side of the country, and we see him doing a lot of a lot of Transformer stuff. I commissioned a piece from his name is Dan Kana.
Oh yeah, I know Dan.
Yeah, and one of the fun things is watching him do sketches at conventions because like he keeps like his paper on his lap, and then within his lap is like a stack of different rulers and curves and straight edges, and it's like in triangles and just like so many different sized angles to make all these Transformers things. Do you also have like a stockpile of straight edges, or do you eyeball most of it, or?
It's sort of both, you know. Sometimes I do definitely have like straight edges and templates and everything. It sort of depends on the specific piece, you know. Like, and it's weird because there's times I've done everyone with like used a ruler on the entire thing, and I thought it looked stiffer than when I sort of freehanded some of it. So it sort of varies, you know. Like I believe like I think the best thing is you lay out all your perspective and stuff in pencil, and then make sure all those are perfectly like ruled out. And then when you're actually doing like the line art, keep it a little more free on top. So it sort of has the basis of being correct underneath, but then it still like maintains the life, you know?
You talk really fast.
Oh, do I?
Yeah, no, it's great. Like you have excellent answers for us, but we have to keep up with you now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's great.
It's one of the better problems that we could have.
Oh, good. Okay. It's so funny.
Because you're very sure of your answers.
Oh, yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah.
I try. Well, you're asking me about stuff that I think a lot about, so that's good. You know,
right,
I'm sure you could. Yeah.
Who's your favorite Star Trek captain? There we go. That'll throw you off.
Yeah. See, that's gonna make me slow down. That's a really tough one, man, because I can narrow it. I love Kirk and Picard and Cisco quite a bit. But I hate ruling anyone out, you know?
Right, yeah.
They all hold their own place,
They
you
do.
know, in the canon and the lore.
Sure. Like I like Janeway too, but I feel like for me the best series were Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. So I tend to think those are the best. Those are my favorite captains, probably. You know. But then I love Kirk. Like I like movie Kirk. I was never like shamefully really into the original series as much, you know. But I should actually go watch the entire thing. I feel bad.
Just watch all the Star Trek.
A little bit of it. With
go
ahead.
Yeah, sorry, good. No, I was saying, I've watched everything post the original season or the original series, so I should just kind of round that out.
With taking a look at the work that you've done, one thing that obviously stands out to the two of us, being that we're pretty big fans of the first one. Like you did work on. It says you did Pacific Rim for Legendary Comics, because I remember seeing there was a Pacific Rim comic. I used to work at a bookstore.
Oh, cool.
And I can't remember who made it. Is that the only Pacific Rim comic? Because if so, I read the shit out of that because it was. Go ahead.
I think there's at least two series they did, maybe more because of the new movie. But Legendary Comics, which is like the comic side of Legendary, the movie company. They're probably the ones that published all of it. I'm pretty sure. But I did a cover for one of their collections. I think it was the collection like after the first movie came out. But yeah.
Do you, with your style, and I hate to pigeonhole your entire style just to Transformers, because you have unbelievable things in addition to that. I'm really digging the Mr. Freeze that you have on your website. Unbelievably, and the Galactus too. I could go on, but with Pacific Rim and your ability to draw giant robots, did you see like a spike in, can you draw me a Gypsy Danger? Or can you draw me the heavily underutilized Cherno Alpha who got just shafted in the movie?
Yeah.
I've done some Gypsy Dangers, not a ton, ironically. Like, you think it would be, pretty well requested. I feel like it's one of those things that series feels more popular in other countries to me, kind of like how the Transformers movies are. Like, they generally make more money overseas.
Right.
So I think there might be more of a demand there. Like by far, like Transformers and Star Wars are sort of the top things that get requested to, commissions of. Like, occasionally they'll ask for like an anime robot or something that I don't know as much, or don't know as well. But yeah, Pacific Rim not so much, kind of surprisingly.
That's a damn shame.
I know.
I remember when that first movie first dropped, we were tabling it because we used to get a table at our local convention, Boston, not our local, one of the local bigger shows, Boston Comic Con, and I remember it was like the summer that Pacific Rim came out, so there was Pacific Rim shit everywhere. We were all trying to like in the downtime at the table, we were trying to think of our Jaeger names, and then I remember like the second one came out, and it just kind of came and went, and it was kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, I think the economics of entertainment are so different these days, where it's like, there's so much content out there, and some things just come and go, but then they're a bigger hit overseas.
Right.
It's a weird kind of thing. Like I think even them kind of greenlighting the sequel to the first one was sort of based on how it did overseas.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's unusual. Like I think a lot of companies are, comics and movies are just trying to see where everything's going these days, because I think it's a big transitional time.
Yeah, I mean that's we see so many. It's just sequels and sequels and reboots and like, or it was a book, or it was it's so rare to see like original IPs like even like isn't like Baby Driver, because like Baby Driver was like my movie of the year last year, and I think even Baby Driver, like a lot of people were like, oh, it was loosely based off of this or something like that. It's and then it's tough because like, and then you see like the original movies, they don't do well. But like you said, they a lot of stuff like you see like, oh, it was nobody liked it in America, but in Japan it grossed $500 billion. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, like in some ways it's good. I was just talking to some friends about how, when you cancel something back in the day, that really meant it was gone for good. But these days we're seeing, X-Files, like Roseanne, for whatever ends up happening there. Like you're seeing these things that were canceled 20 years ago just brought back, because people are like, yeah, if you pay us and we're interested, nothing is really over now. So it's kind of a really crazy time.
Except apparently Friends. I saw on Reddit today that like the creator of Friends was like, no, we're not bringing Friends back because we already did Friends. Friends is done. We're finished with Friends.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some people, like I think like Jerry Seinfeld would never come back and do Seinfeld again because he just doesn't need the money and he's not interested anymore.
Yeah. But, I mean, he had a good, I can't remember, like 10 years or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Speaking of reboots, and I do want to touch on one of the pieces. When we're doing our kind of like pre-show, like getting ready, making sure we sort of understand who we're talking to. It typically doesn't work too well, but Alex was flooding me with links, and every link he'd go, oh, and then he'd send me a link, and one of them was Ed 209 from RoboCop.
Oh yeah.
Which Alex is a big fan of RoboCop.
Yep.
I love RoboCop. Yeah.
Good. I feel like we're about to have a good conversation right now.
Yeah.
Did you catch the reboot of that one?
I did catch it. Yeah.
With I can't remember his name, but he was in Suicide Squad. He's the guy from Suicide Squad.
Joel Kinnaman. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I did. I mean, I don't know, man, because like I thought the beginning of that movie where you see kind of Ed 209's roaming around Tehran, I thought that was super interesting. That felt like a natural evolution of the first movie. That where OCP is putting these things in other countries, and it felt relevant to what's going on in the world today with drones and everything. I just felt like the movie falls apart when you redo that first story. Like someone told me like if this movie had been called Another RoboCop, people would have embraced it more, But it's like when you're trying to redo something that was done perfectly, I just don't know. I don't know how you can ever do it, really.
Yeah, it's
like I think I think you could have done something like a new soldier becomes a RoboCop, and then you still have like Peter Weller in cold storage or something.
The Get My Family Back the first time didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
It's like I'm sorry, you can't go back to you're a machine now.
You're a robot cop.
Yeah.
Go do robot things.
Yeah.
Where would you say, because Ed 209 arguably, and I think it also deals with a lot of it plays into the time that RoboCop came out, just because Ed 209 scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For lack of to put it bluntly. And it also dealt with a lot of the way it moved, because you saw that a lot in movies back then because special effects. Like is it stop motion mixed with, I don't even know how they did it. Yeah, stop motion. And it just made it that much more scary because it looked weird when it moved.
It's a machine that could growl somehow too.
Yeah. Where would you like taking like Ed 209? It seems like we're all big fans of terrifying robots. Where would you
Yeah.
say he ranks? It's a he apparently as well. Where would you say that Ed 209 would rank on your like favorite robot lists?
Oh man, yeah, he's definitely up there because I kind of like you guys. Like I wasn't so much afraid of him as a kid, but I loved him. I thought it was like amazing. Like I'd never, because when we grew up, there was not that many of these things out there the way it is today. Like seeing a robot that looked that real shooting machine guns was incredible, right? But I actually have a great first exposure to RoboCop story where I think like that movie came out in like '87, I think maybe.
That was my first R-rated movie.
Oh yeah, I remember wanting to watch it, and my parents were like, "Okay, we're gonna watch it first to see if it's appropriate for like a 7-year-old." And so like, they watch it, and then they're like, "Absolutely not! You're not seeing this movie." And I was like, I told them I'd seen there was a giant robot in it. I was like, I just want to see Ed 209. So for like 6 months, my mom would go into the room. She would cue the scene up to when Ed 209 fights RoboCop in the office.
Uh-huh.
And I was allowed to watch those 4 minutes, and then she would stop the tape. And so for like, I think even longer than that, for like years, I think that's the only part of RoboCop I saw. And I remember like thinking I had no idea what the movie was about. I had no idea about any of the political aspect. And I mean, years later when I saw the whole movie, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that my parents like like went in there thinking it might be okay for their 7-year-old. But yeah, no, it's an incredible movie for sure.
I still get uncomfortable. Like I am in my 30s.
I don't know why that dude didn't just drop the gun.
Yeah.
He gave him plenty of time to comply. I mean, I think
It's
we
true.
can all agree with that.
Do you have the
I believe he does drop it, and then Ed 209 just still.
Oh yeah, he drops it and he's still telling him to drop it. And he's like, it's on the ground. That's when he tries running away. Do you have the sideshow toy of Ed 209?
I do.
Oh,
Yeah, I have that Ed 209 and both RoboCops, the regular and the battle damage one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. If I wasn't jealous before, I'm jealous now.
That was
I remember
I respect
There's
you.
a rumor they were gonna. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just making a joke that you have. It's like in a video game, like Alex will remember that. Anyways, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I remember they were announcing they were gonna do Kane from RoboCop 2, and that would be a really cool design because that's less out there than Ed 209 is in terms of toys and statues of him.
Just give me one of the messed up RoboCops in the beginning in the trial run where like it takes its own head off and
The RoboFlops. Yep. I believe that's what because I've never seen the second RoboCop.
Yeah.
Don't hurt me. I swear I'll eventually see it.
Oh wow.
But I've I have a nasty habit of, well, like I should probably go to sleep, but I'm also just gonna click around on YouTube. And one of the there's that one channel that does all like the movie clips. Like you can watch this movie in 10 clips, and one of them was for RoboCop 2 was like RoboFlops.
Yeah.
So one of the few scenes that I've seen from RoboCop 2 was the different like we're gonna try and do it again,
the 3 failed ones.
and just like
That's
blast the scientist away and then blows his own head off like that. It's funny, but it's also really morbid.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like those.
No, it's hilarious. That scene is great. Yeah.
Existence is pain to those to those RoboCops. Was Kane? Which one had like the brain? Was that Kane?
Yeah.
That's Kane. Yeah.
Because I remember I've seen that part, like when like he's fighting him at the end. Spoilers, by the way, for RoboCop 2. If you and like
came out.
he like rips out the brain, doesn't he? And like smashes it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Yep.
It was real tough to get to.
Who would win in a fight, Ed 209 or Kane?
I think, as much as I hate to say it, I think Kane would win because that thing is faster. But I do think if they were starting off like a football field apart from each other, Ed 209 could win just by opening fire.
Yeah.
So I put a lot of thought into this, actually.
Kane might be smarter, but you can't outsmart those guns.
That's true. True.
Can outsmart bullets.
Yeah.
Are you? We kind of touched on preferring comic art to concept art and whatnot. Do you have like a job that you strive for that you haven't gotten yet? Like, is there dream work in your future that like you in case you're not there yet, where like I've really hit the top now? Like, I don't know. I see a lot of Star Wars. It's like, would you want to land a Star Wars book, or are you fine with what you're doing now?
That would be cool. Like I think I did a couple Star Wars covers for Dark Horse Comics. It was right when the license was going back to Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of bittersweet because it was like I'm getting to do Star Wars, but the writing was on the wall that the license was changing, and So yeah, more professional Star Wars stuff I would love to do. Yeah, any big sci-fi, even I mean, like you're saying, RoboCop, like that's also that was one I would love to do some like RoboCop art, Blade Runner, you know. So yeah. I mean, really just kind of, and then only I guess like creator-owned stuff in general, like my own sort of science fiction stuff. So, but sci-fi is definitely like my favorite proper or my favorite universe for sure.
Right. Kind of in the same vein, one thing that is, I don't know if reassuring is the right word, but it's neat when you experience it. Like, excuse me, we're a big fan. We touched on sketch prices earlier. Going up to artists and saying, "Hey, I like your work. Here's some money. Can you draw this thing for me?" And when the artists, particularly like when they get excited about it, like, "Hey, can you draw me a this?" And they go, "Oh man, I haven't drawn that in ages," or "I love drawing this person." You know, so when you're at a convention, when you're tabling, you know, what gets you excited when someone comes up and says, "Hey, can you do this?" Or, you know, something like that. Like what really, you know, like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to put this down on the paper."
Yeah, that's a great question because like you definitely like you'll get a better commission out of it too. Like if you know, like unintentionally or not, like the artist, if they're more fired up about drawing it, it's just going to turn out better, you know? So, it varies because like there are things like Ed 209 would be a perfect example. Like I would love to draw Ed 209 like if someone comes up, but then the flip side is there's occasionally people come up and they just ask for something so different than the norm. Like if someone asks for like an Emma Frost or something that's so out of my normal wheelhouse that can be kind of interesting.
Right.
Like I think it gets hard when someone sees you drawing like a Starscream and then two more people walk up and we're like, "Can we both get Starscream?" You know, so that just sort of feels like you're like, "I'd rather draw anything than draw this character for a third time in one day," you know. But yeah, I would say anything sci-fi or even like having a couple options. Like if you go up to an artist and say like, "I'm thinking of like these three characters. Like, do you have a preference?" I think that's always a good approach too.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about that before, like approaching an artist and like having options for them.
Did you do that with Chris Campana?
We've given that example one time. Chris Campana, I took out like some X-Men sketch covers and I was like, "How are your Sentinels?" And he's like, "I'm not too good at robots." And like I kind of like fanned out what other sketch covers I had, and he's like, "Give me the Spider-Man." I'm like, "Okay, let's work on the Spider-Man sketch." But you know,
Yeah. I like when people have like themed sketchbooks. Sketchbook is like the theme is open enough. So someone will have a book of like villains. So you're like, "Oh, okay, that's wide open. It could be, you know, Jafar from Aladdin or it can be Venom, you know?" Yeah. Like it gives you just enough of a focus but still gives you some leeway, you know? So I definitely like those.
I'm curious with your expertise, you know, with robots and the like. There's a gentleman out on the West Coast. Alex knows where I'm going with this, and he's hit pretty much every artist that we've ever been able to find. Like sometimes we'll talk to people and be like, "Hey, have you met this guy?" And be like, "Yeah, I'm in one of his books." Is this guy Tom Franck? Who?
Oh yeah, yep, I know Tom.
Unbelievable, this man.
I was. You know, when you said that, I literally my first thought was Tom Franck when you said that. Yeah.
Have you done work for him?
I have. I'm in at least one of his books, if not two of them. And he's got a hell of a collection. He has a Guillermo del Toro drawing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. No, he's got a great collection.
Yeah, we've had him on twice. We talked to him.
Yeah.
I liked him. I know him like personally. Like because he's a comedian too, so I've seen his act a couple times.
Funny thing. Yeah. He was at I think our second Boston appearance.
Something like that.
We were tabling at Boston just to listen to our podcast, and and this guy comes up. He's like, "Hey, I was sent by Charlie," and we're like, "Oh." And this being Charlie, who started Sketch Prices.
Yeah.
And he's like, he told me to come find you and brag about my stuff. And we're like, "All right, you start." And then like he has this giant tome of art and like is flipping through it and like not really saying anything, just kind of smirking under his breath.
He slow rolled us.
and every page we're just going, "Oh."
Yep.
Yeah, and since then he's been on the show 2 times.
Do you recall what you did for him?
I honestly don't. Like I should remember that, but it's been a few years. I know. I think when I drew the last thing, I believe it was a one-off robot. Like I'm pretty sure it was not an existing character.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was that. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he actually had a scary thing happen where like he thought that there was an artist who took one of his books to draw on it, and he thought that he lost that book.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know if he talk about that on the podcast at all.
Well, he was on our 2 episodes were a while.
Like it was like 3 or 4 years ago he was on.
Over 2 years ago, and this incident was pretty recent because he had posted about it, and I messaged him. No, I think I commented and I was like, "You're showing a lot of restraint, not naming who the artist is."
Yeah.
And then he messaged me offline and been like, "It was this person." I go,
Yeah.
"Oh."
But he recently got it back.
He got it. Yeah, he did.
Yep.
Yeah.
He got it back. Thank God. Yeah. Like, yeah, my brother, I'm not going to name the artist either, but my brother gave a sketchbook to an artist, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the artist, the first thing he said, this is like the worst etiquette ever. The first thing the artist says to him is like, if you email me for updates, I'm really bad at replying back, so keep after me, which I think is a horrible thing to say to someone that's paying you money to draw.
Right.
Like, and then my brother's been waiting 2 years with no communication, like in the last year. And despite hitting him up all the time, and there being other pieces in that book too. So it's like, yeah, there's definitely some unreliable people out there for sure, which I don't understand because like everyone else is supporting their livelihood, you know? So
it's one of those. It can be a slippery slope, because it's I really respect this artist. I really want this piece. I'll pay you now. Mail it to me, cool. And then you're risking mail damage, which we've all. I remember Justin way back, one of our former founders, co-hosts. This guy Justin, he commissioned a piece. I can't remember from who.
Me neither.
Of one of his original characters that he has, and like I remember, excuse me, it showed up completely folded in half, like they just the post service just butchered it, and then also you're risking the whole, they might be busy, they might forget, we've all kind of had that experience, so it's kind of a bummer, and I hate to say like, oh, it's part of the business, but
I mean, what's been happening a lot, like the page tries to not really promote it, but some people go to sketch prices and ask and be like, how reliable is this person? How is communication for this person?
And that's another slippery slope, man.
Yeah, but at least like you might get an idea of what it is dealing with them.
Right.
While we're talking about sketches and conventions, coming up next week will be your first appearance at Heroes Con. Is that correct?
It will be my first appearance ever. Yeah, I'm really excited. Yeah.
We have a long-running joke on this show,
Okay.
and by long-running joke I mean it's Alex and I smirking at each other in silence while we're talking to someone, because I've wanted to go to Heroes Con for a couple years now. We're up in New England. Heroes Con is in North Carolina, I believe.
Yeah, in Charlotte.
So it's like it's a hike, and especially because I'm a bummer and I hate flying. We haven't been able to make it out there yet.
And the joke is that I'll usually say, well, maybe we'll try for Dragon Con because Dragon Con seems to be more fun. So then we go back and forth about like, we ask someone else what they prefer, what they like better, what they prefer to do.
If we're gonna travel, we might as well go to X.
And when they say Dragon Con, I get a check mark on my list, and when they say Heroes Con, Jared gets a smirk and I get to frown, and it's going on like this for years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's our stupid little competition.
Heroes
Even
Con
though,
is-
from what I hear, both shows are. And like,
the one thing I can tell you is I've done Dragon Con twice, and that is a trippy show, man. Like that's like I do a lot of conventions, and that is like a really, the nightlife alone and like the cosplaying. It's definitely its own kind of thing for sure.
But we also understand that like Heroes Con is the Comic Con. It's the artist con. If you want to go meet people and look at amazing art and come home with some cool stuff and talk to the people that really make the stuff that you're a fan of, it's Heroes Con is the place to go.
Yeah, I've heard that for years, that it has like one of the best kind of art buying communities of any, maybe the best one of any convention, So it's like, and I think a lot of people in the sketch group seem like they go to Heroes Con. So yeah, I'm excited to check it out for sure.
I'm very jealous of a friend of mine. She lives in North Carolina. She used to live up here. She moved down a couple years ago, and she just on a whim, oh hey, I'm going to a comic convention this weekend. And I was like, which one are you? Oh, it's called Heroes Convention. And I was like, okay. So just on a whim, she gets to go to like one of the, for fans of art and artists, like it seems to be like one of the bigger shows to go to. And she just, gets to go on a whim, like, oh hey, look at the prints I bought. And I was like, okay, cool. But that's next weekend, you said? This weekend?
Yeah.
Next weekend.
Next weekend.
I don't think he'd be talking to us on a Thursday.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Depending on the show, do you bring different stuff to different shows depending on like if you know it's a big show, do you bring like your good stuff, like you're really like your expensive pieces, or if you're not really sure, do you bring other stuff like?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it does vary. Like, for HeroesCon, for example, I'm bringing more original art than I usually bring, and I'm bringing more paper and pencils and, even color markers, because I don't do color commissions at a convention, but for HeroesCon, people have already been asking about it. So I'm sort of treating that as a more actual commission show, whereas something like the convention in Dubai or something, or New York Comic Con is like, there's a lot of print sales there too. So you bring a lot of like paper, but yeah, in general, you're always kind of, the weight of carrying this stuff really adds up. So you're always trying to look for ways to like minimize, that bringing stuff. But it's hard. It's hard because no matter what, paper is heavy, and if it's commissions or it's prints, you're bringing a lot.
Especially if you're selling like quality stuff, like
yeah,
quality paper gets real heavy real fast. I know this is the stuff that people are tuning in for is paper discussions, but like even just like carrying around like just a couple prints that are like diesel, like real good stuff, like Newligan, he has great prints.
Or the bags that go in.
Yeah,
just a box of bags.
That can, and especially like I can't even imagine how nerve-wracking it would be to have to like check your art. Like, oh hey, I'm flying on this plane. This binder folder, this contains my livelihood, so you cannot do anything bad to it.
I had when I was at Wildstorm, I was flying up to WonderCon in San Francisco one time from San Diego, and I was flying with my friend Eddie Choi, who's Jim Lee's assistant, and Eddie had to bring with him an entire issue of original All-Star Batman and Robin, like finished penciled and inked pages, like that thing. I don't even know how much that's worth, but I remember he had it with him, like he was holding like the nuclear codes on the plane,
like handcuffed to him.
It's the nuclear football, yeah.
Exactly. And I remember he like at one point he went to the bathroom. He's like, "Can you watch this?" And I remember just staring at it, like as the president's son with you, and you're like, "I can't believe that this is right next to me."
It's like
crazy.
It's like one of my favorite videos, and I talked about this way back in the day. There, Chip Kidd.
Oh yeah,
he's a like designer. There's a video of him from, I can't remember what the site was, but there's a video of him talking about these books that he has, because he bought the complete original art from an issue of Batman and Robin when it was Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley, and he bought a complete issue of All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
Like complete cover to back, like every single page.
And every page is behind glass.
Yeah, well, so he bound it in glass, like in like a glass portfolio. And I can't even imagine like even being able to see that in person, let alone like I'm holding it in my hands.
I couldn't afford.
And
one
also
of those
hang
pages.
out with Jim Lee's assistant Eddie, because whenever you see Jim Lee post on Facebook, it's always like it always says Eddie at the end, and that's I imagine that's the same guy. Am I correct?
Yeah, that is the same guy. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's crazy too, because I remember like you guys know Alex Sinclair? He's Jim's colorist.
Yes.
He's a great guy too. Like I'm friends with him, and I remember he was coming by the office one day to pick up 2 pages of Jim's to color, and I was like, and they had already been inked by Scott Williams, and I was looking at him, I'm like, man, these are amazing. And he saw how fragile I was holding them, and he's like, dude, it's just paper. And I remember him lifting them in the air, and he was like shaking them around. I still vividly remember this, and I'm like, I cannot believe what I'm staring at right now. Like, it was hilarious, because it's like, because for him, he treats it well, but he's just handled it so much that he just knows that they're more durable than we think, right? But it was funny though.
It's the expression of a true collector, where you start wincing because something might get damaged or scuffed, or
especially
or get
like
a fingerprint on it,
like a Jim Lee that's like, were the inks over the pencils? I don't know how.
Jim and Scott still do it the old-fashioned way. So Scott inks everything, and then crazily like erases Jim's pencils, which that concept is so bizarre to me. But
that's brutal. Oh
yeah.
God, I can't. I had a moment. Crazy? I had a moment of panic a couple years ago, because I'm a big fan of Chew and Rob Guillory's work, and I have 2 pages of original art from that book, and I had them like framed up on my wall. And out of nowhere, I had just panicked, and I was like, oh my God, these have been exposed. I don't know if this glass is UV resistant. I could be fading. This is ridiculous. And I ripped them down and I put them in my portfolio. So and I'm probably just overreacting to nothing. But
Yeah.
to hear someone just like, oh yeah, these originals of Jim Lee with the inks over the pen, they're just paper. It is more than paper. It's real to me, damn it.
Yeah, no, it's something. Yeah.
As we're kind of getting toward the end here, you mentioned that you're going to be at HeroesCon next weekend.
I will. Yeah.
What else do you have coming up? Do you do San Diego? What's your schedule like?
I do. Yeah, I do San Diego every year. I'm also doing Amazing Las Vegas Comic-Con, which is the end of June. So any excuse to go to Vegas. And then I'm doing later in the year. I'll be at New York Comic-Con actually later this year in October.
Shit. Okay.
So
we'll come say hi then.
Yeah. Do you guys do that one every year?
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to go.
We get about one day in recently.
Yeah, with schedules, because Alex does. It happens during Halloween time, and Alex is very active in that community. So getting free time, but we typically try to make at least one day.
Good. Yeah.
And then we get exhausted during that day. I'm glad to hear that you're in. I remember last year with the smaller Artist Alley, because they were doing renovations and construction.
The room they usually use, they knock down to do other stuff with, and Artist Alley was essentially cut in half, size wise.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of people who normally would have been at the show, no, I couldn't get in.
Yeah.
It was kind of a bummer.
I was worried about that too. Yeah. I mean, thankfully, it seems like it'll work out, but who knows in the future? Because it seems like that Javits Center hangar construction is going to go on a while.
Right.
So I don't know if we're going to be in the basement for a while. But yeah.
See, hopefully we'll be able to bump into you at New York. I know tickets go on sale this Sunday, I think.
Oh,
the 10th.
Yeah, come by. Great to see you guys in person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other things on your schedule that you'd want to shout?
That's about it. I don't think I can talk about any comic-y stuff I'm doing at the moment, but
right.
Yeah, I guess just the conventions, and then I'll be active on the sketch group for anyone listening. If anyone's interested in a commission, just hit me up anytime.
I watch a lot of your stuff on Instagram.
Oh, cool.
So let's.
Oh yeah, that's a good plug. Thank you. Yeah. That's,
I was like, do I try and spell your name out?
Yeah. But yeah, that's the most active I am is on Instagram. I try and post something pretty much every day.
Mm-hmm. We'll have links to a bunch of your social media contacts on our episode.
I typically try to throw as many links as I can. I've been perusing your website pretty much the entirety of this episode. It's literally it's your name.com.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just found it literally by Googling your first name and the word artist.
Oh, good.
But you can go check out all the things that I've been ogling over this entire time. Twitter, also as well. It's your name, so it's Livio Ramondelli with the @ obviously, because Twitter. So you can go check that out, and also at your local shows. We always one of our big things is support local shows, support artists. If you're at HeroesCon, I am very jealous, but you can go check out Livio and his work. And even New York coming up, and San Diego too. How's San Diego been for you the past couple of years? There's that big discussion of the shift in comics and all that. Has San Diego been well to you?
Yeah, it's always kind of probably the busiest show of the year because it's the most people and it's the longest days. Because it goes Wednesday through Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's grueling. Because it's a lot of work, and then at night the sort of networking aspects of everyone being in town and you're never getting enough sleep. But it's really good. It's always really fun, and it's sort of like you get to see friends that you don't see very often come into town.
Right.
So, yeah, but I like that one, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Rad.
Do you get a chance to experience other stuff, or are you just busy at working at your table the whole time?
It's hard because because so much of the panels and that kind of aspect is it's not like you can just slip away for an hour, right, and see Game of Thrones. It's if you're going to go to a panel, you're basically committing to being in line for 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, I'm sort of chained at my table the whole time. Occasionally, I'll preview night. I really enjoy because as an exhibitor, you get let in before the general crowd,
Mm-hmm.
so you can you can roam the floor and you see them setting up the sideshow booth, and DC does the costumes and stuff. Marvel does too. And I really enjoy that kind of the quiet hour before everything goes crazy for 4 days. But yeah, yeah.
Man, that sideshow booth, just the one that I can't imagine. I don't know if it's any different at San Diego, but the one that they have at New York, where it's just
Oh yeah,
like
it's incredible. Yeah.
it's like they shrink down actors and they just put them in glass cases.
Oh yeah, and then the weird thing too is they put up stuff that like there'll be like a giant TIE fighter, like supersized.
Yeah.
They're sort of gauging interest and then deciding if they're going to build it, because there's things I've seen pop up there that they've never made later. They've never like actually mass produced it, so you never know what they're going to unveil. So yeah,
I've never seen in person their 3-foot Sentinel that they made a couple years ago.
oh, I haven't either. It sounds amazing.
I'm a big fan of Sentinels, and they released one a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and it's like $900.
Yeah.
Which for 3 feat, I mean, that's not bad considering
bad.
what you can pay for like a 12-inch.
Like their what was it? I forget their premiere format Lex Luthor is like $600, but that's like
nice.
over a foot tall. And
Yeah.
full power armor looks amazing, but I've never seen this Sentinel in person.
Well, someday.
Yeah.
Someday.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll find one in the auction or something at a flea market.
Livio, I gotta say thank you so much for coming on and joining us and letting us chew your ear off for the better part of an hour.
No, it flew by, you guys. It was really fun to talk to you.
It went by super. It's so much fun, man. Just meeting and again, it's one of those before an hour ago we'd never spoken to you. It's just it's cool. It goes to show like artists, reach out to your artists that you admire. Tell them tell them that you like their work, and they might say thanks. They'll probably say thanks.
Yeah, and vice versa. It's great to meet new people across the board that share your interests. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But go check out Livio and his work at all the local show near you, or one that you might be traveling to. Check out on the internets. I'll be posting all links in the blog post accompanying this episode. And hit him up if you even on sketch prices. Give me a sketch. Let's talk turkey.
Let's work it out.
But yeah, I guess that's gonna do it for this week. That was unbelievably fun, Livio. Thanks again. I think I'm out of things. What was that?
I said, just my pleasure. I love talking to you guys.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so that is going to do it for this week. Until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
I have been Livio.
And this has been episode 325 of Opinions May Vary.